Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload. And you'll never miss a story again. The house had an eerily calm aura that morning, as the scent of cinnamon rolls filled the open-plan kitchen. The soft chirp of birds outside offered a sharp contrast to the knot of tension in my chest. It was a Saturday, and I had the day off. She didn't. Or at least, that's what she told me. I poured my coffee with an almost mechanical precision, pretending I wasn't aware of the storm brewing. Melissa, my wife of 6 years, was across the kitchen island, tapping away on her phone. There was a nervous energy in her movements, too much for someone who hadn't even bothered to kiss me good morning. She didn't notice I was watching. Or perhaps she didn't care. "You know, Daniel," she said, voice softer than usual, her thumb still dancing on her phone screen. "I think we need some space. I'm going away this weekend for clarity." Clarity. Alone, she said. I nodded, not reacting, though my mind was racing. Alone. Then, as though the universe had decided to rip the last thread of my trust to shreds, she added casually, "I'm going with Travis." Travis, my best friend, my college roommate, my best man, my fishing buddy, my brother. Her voice was detached, clinical, as though she was explaining a simple errand she needed to run. And yet, those two words felt like a grenade exploding in my chest. Travis, my best friend. The man who had sat next to me at our wedding, laughing and joking, all while probably planning this very thing. I looked up from my coffee, meeting her eyes for the first time in months. Her expression was open, honest even. It wasn't the guarded, evasive look she had worn for weeks. But honesty didn't make it any less painful. "Okay," I said simply, my voice calm. "You'll adjust." She didn't seem to register the undercurrent in my tone. With a final flick of her fingers through her hair, she stood up and grabbed her overnight bag, which was already packed, waiting by the door. She looked at me one last time, a flicker of pity crossing her face, before she said, "Try not to be dramatic." I didn't speak. I didn't chase her down. I didn't even blink. Instead, I stood, my calm demeanor, not hiding the storm of emotions swirling inside me. "You've started something you don't understand, but you will." I don't think she fully grasped what I meant in that moment. How could she? She had no idea I had already seen the signs. The receipts from Uber trips to Travis's address, the hotel bookings under her business account, the photos she had carelessly uploaded to the cloud that I could still access. I had evidence of everything. Texts, emails, pictures, and the footage from the guest room camera I had set up years ago. I had proof, and I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I walked straight to my home office and locked the door behind me. I opened a folder titled Firestorm, and inside it were all the pieces of the puzzle. Timestamps, pictures, messages, everything that would burn their world down. My lawyer, a no alimony specialist in Chicago, had already been briefed. This wasn't just a divorce, no. This was going to be a social autopsy. And I was going to make sure Melissa and Travis were dissected in front of every single person they had lied to. I could already feel the plan forming. How had it all started? Melissa and I had once been inseparable. We met in a jazz bar in Austin, both of us reaching for the last seat at the bar. She laughed at my sarcasm, and I fell for that laugh. She was magnetic, smart, edgy, alive. But something had shifted. When she got the promotion, she started calling herself the brand. And then I started noticing the changes, the long gaps in her text replies, the phone always on silent, the traces of cologne on her that didn't match mine. What hurt the most wasn't just the infidelity. It was the growing silence, the absence, the way she stopped touching me like I mattered, the way she'd pull away when I needed her most. She was slipping away and I couldn't stop it. Then there was Travis, the snake I called my brother, the opposite of me, loud, flirtatious, the life of every party. He thrived on chaos and attention, especially from women. I once covered for him when his girlfriend suspected he'd cheated on her. I thought he was just a wild spirit. I didn't know he was a predator. And I didn't realize I was watching him silently destroy everything I had worked for, everything I had loved. One night, the guest Wi-Fi I'd installed for study nights with Melissa and Travis gave it away. Travis's MacBook was filled with breadcrumbs, encrypted folders, strange data transfers, and a video file named Cherry Night. It made my stomach turn. In the video, there she was, lying in the guest room I had built with my own hands. Her laughter wasn't fake. Her betrayal wasn't subtle. I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I was going to make sure that they understood, that they knew what they had done. I had collected all the evidence, texts, videos, hotel bills, even HR. Complaints Melissa had made about her boss, calling him a clueless parasite. I sent it all, not with hate, but with the cold, detached truth. And then, the pieces began to fall into place. Melissa was removed from her company's Women and Leadership Slack channel. Her best friend Lisa blocked her. Travis's girlfriend of 2 years called me, tears in her voice. She had no idea. I was just getting started. It wasn't about anger. It wasn't about vengeance. It was about justice. And they were going to see exactly what that meant. The night after Melissa left, the house felt even emptier than usual. It wasn't just the absence of her presence, her scent, her footsteps, the sound of her voice. It was the realization of what I'd lost and what I was about to reclaim. Logan, my childhood friend and former army buddy, had flown in from Colorado the week before. He wasn't just here for a casual visit. No, he was my quiet witness, a person who had seen enough of life's darkest moments to know what true justice looked like. That night, as we sat under the dim porch light, sipping whiskey, I handed him the flash drive labeled Playbook. Logan didn't speak for a while. His jaw was clenched, his fingers pressed against his forehead as he watched the first few clips, the footage of Travis and Melissa in the guest room. The clips I had carefully collected over weeks. "Jesus, Danny," he finally said, his voice low, raw. "This is war." "No," I replied, my voice steady. "This is justice." It was strange to hear the word justice, especially from someone like me. I hadn't felt much like a crusader in the past few months. No, I had been more like a man with a plan, a man who had seen the truth and decided it was time for others to see it too. I had no illusions about what I was doing. This wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't going to be pretty, but I wasn't in the mood for pity or forgiveness. This was about putting everything into the light, every lie, every betrayal. It wasn't just for me. It was for every person who had ever been lied to, manipulated, or discarded by someone they loved. The night was filled with the steady hum of cicadas outside, a soundtrack to my calm resolve. I wasn't shattering. I wasn't falling apart. I was wide awake, more alert than I'd ever been, and I wasn't alone. Melissa and Travis were still at the cabin, basking in their false sense of freedom, but I could see through their charade. It was laughable, really. They were posting selfies, acting like the weekend had been some soul-searching retreat. But all it did was confirm what I already knew. They were proud of what they thought they were hiding. That's when I decided to start sending out the first little pieces of the puzzle. Melissa's mother got the first breadcrumb. I sent her a photo of the two of them kissing in front of the hot tub at the cabin, along with a short note, "Hope she's safe. She told me she was on a solo retreat." It was quiet. No anger, no rants, just a simple breadcrumb. But it was enough. I didn't stop there. I forwarded a video to one of Travis's coworkers, a friend who had once told me, "I trust you more than I trust Travis with anything." The video was damning. Travis bragging about his affair with my wife. I knew it would hit hard. I wasn't out for revenge. I was simply showing them the truth. The next morning, that friend texted me, a casual, "Yo, do you know what he's been saying about you and about Melissa?" I didn't respond at first, but I smiled to myself, knowing what was coming. This was just the beginning. Melissa and Travis checked out of their romantic getaway on Sunday morning. The thing was, I had already anticipated the move they'd try to pull, the card they'd try to use, our shared travel card. I had frozen it 2 days before. It wasn't an act of petty vengeance. It was just preparation. The hotel called their room twice before they finally had to march down to the front desk. Thanks to a little favor I'd done for the hotel manager last year, I was able to access the security footage remotely. I watched, and I felt something close to satisfaction when I saw Melissa's face twist in embarrassment as the concierge asked her if she had another method of payment. Travis fumbled through his wallet. The card was declined. It was a scene that felt like it was scripted, and in a way it was. I had already written their ending. They argued in front of the hotel staff. Loud, angry, a full-blown spectacle. It was pathetic. When they finally returned home that night, Melissa stormed through the door, her bag slamming onto the floor. "You froze my card," she yelled. "You lied to my face. This is ridiculous." I didn't say a word. I'd already seen everything. I knew everything. The conversation had ended before it began. "This isn't a conversation," I said calmly. "It's documentation." She tried to play it cold, almost detached. "You wouldn't dare do anything. You're too emotional." She looked at me with that familiar disdain, the one she'd worn for months. "That's why I got tired of you." I didn't blink. "You ever hear a soldier scream before pulling the trigger?" I said, my voice so calm, so measured, that it sent a shiver down my spine. She flinched. Not much, but enough for me to know that the gravity of the situation was finally starting to sink in. Later that night, she began texting our friends, trying to frame me. She claimed I was unhinged, that I was dangerous. But I'd already been ahead of her. My lawyer had already filed the divorce paperwork. The request for a judge to review our assets based on marital misconduct had been submitted. Everything was in place. Her lease car under my name was also reclaimed, while she was still gone. Monday morning, she was locked out of everything. Her email, her phone, even the house Wi-Fi. Travis, thinking he could still pull the strings like he always had, tried to text me that day. "Hey man, I think we need to talk like adults." I didn't respond. Instead, I screenshotted the message and sent it straight to his boss. Along with the rest of the evidence, shady business practices, sexually explicit brags about clients, and Melissa's name cropping up repeatedly in the same conversation. That was when I watched from my window as Melissa paced back and forth in the backyard, phone glued to her ear. It was the first time I allowed myself to smile. She was the one unraveling now. But she wasn't done. Not yet. She was furious. She called her best friend Chelsea, who had always been perceptive and had always seemed to sense when something was wrong. When Chelsea called me crying, I was ready. "You don't deserve this," she said, her voice shaky. "I see it now. She lied to me, too." Chelsea had been one of Melissa's most loyal supporters, but like so many others, she had been misled. And just like the rest of them, the truth shattered the false narrative Melissa had spent so long building. The very next day, Chelsea texted Melissa a screenshot of our conversation and blocked her. The dominoes were falling. I wasn't done, though, not yet. It was time to deliver the final blow. The dinner party invite was already in motion. Melissa had no idea. I sent out the invitations, using her tone, her phrases, her digital voice. "Daniel and I are working through things. We'd love to host a night of truth, forgiveness, and closure. Let's heal together." Her mother, her boss, Travis's supervisor, our closest friends. Everyone confirmed. She didn't know a thing. Not a single one of them suspected the storm that was about to hit. She came home that evening, humming like she had just won some sort of battle. I poured her a glass of wine and raised an eyebrow. "For new beginnings," I said, my voice calm. As she walked away to shower, I opened a folder on my laptop labeled The Reveal, and I pressed Export. The night of the dinner party, everything was set. The table was carefully arranged, candles flickering, a private chef finishing up his preparations in the kitchen. The wine glasses sparkled in the dim light. Soft music played in the background, creating a warm, intimate ambiance. Everything was perfect. Melissa walked in wearing a bright red dress, a fake smile plastered on her face. "Wow," she said, her voice dripping with a mixture of surprise and something darker. "You actually pulled this off." I smiled back. "We're just getting started." She didn't ask questions. She was too busy admiring herself in the mirror, too focused on looking flawless. And then Travis arrived, his hair slicked back, the scent of his cologne so strong that it hit me before he even stepped through the door. He put his hand on her back as they walked in, like he had earned the right to touch her. In my house. The guests began to arrive. Her parents, our friends, Travis's manager, her boss. No one suspected a thing. Dinner was perfect. Laughter, compliments, toasts. But I could see the truth behind Melissa's smile. I could feel the web she had spun slowly unraveling. As the night unfolded, everything about the dinner party appeared perfectly ordinary, at least on the surface. The soft clinking of glasses, the laughter floating through the air, and the chatter that danced around the room. It was as if everything was fine, as if Melissa and I were just another couple hosting a dinner party with friends. But I knew. They all knew. The truth was lurking, ready to come out into the open. After dessert, I stood up, tapping my glass to get everyone's attention. The room quieted, the buzz of conversation dissipating. Melissa looked at me with that smug little smile, as if she thought she had won. She had no idea what was coming. Before we wrap up this beautiful evening, I began, my voice steady, Melissa and I wanted to share something special with you all. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. A quick video montage, a kind of tribute to truth. The guests seemed confused. Some exchanged nervous glances, but no one dared to interrupt. Everyone expected a toast, a heartwarming speech. But this was far from anything they could have imagined. Melissa raised an eyebrow, curious but still acting like everything was normal. "What's this for?" she asked, her smile faltering ever so slightly. "For closure," I answered, almost too quietly. "For truth." I pressed play. The lights dimmed and the first slide came up on the screen. It was a photo of Melissa and Travis, kissing in the hot tub at the cabin. The image was so clear, so crisp, the affection on their faces unmistakable. There was no mistaking the betrayal that hung in the air. Gasps filled the room. Melissa's mother covered her mouth, horrified. Her friends stared, frozen. The next slide was a screenshot of a text message from Melissa to Travis, casually saying, "Daniel's boring. You make me feel alive." The silence was deafening. People exchanged shocked glances. Some looked at me, some at Melissa. I didn't flinch. I didn't need to. The third slide was even worse. Travis sneaking into our backyard at 2 a.m. The camera had caught him clearly, his shadow moving across the yard, his body moving toward the door of our house. He was so proud of what he thought he was hiding. He didn't realize that everything he had done was being recorded. And then the final slide, Melissa's voice recorded in our kitchen. "If he ever finds out, I'll cry. He always folds when I cry." The room went silent, the weight of the truth suffocating everyone. No one moved, no one spoke. Melissa didn't cry, not yet. But I could see the shift in her face, the anger, the disbelief, the realization that everything she had worked so hard to hide was now out in the open. Travis stood up abruptly, his face flushed, his hands trembling. "This was a trap," he shouted, trying to regain some sense of control. "This is illegal. You can't just show private stuff." His voice wavered as he stammered, desperate to shift the focus away from his actions. Logan, my quiet witness, stood up, his presence imposing and unyielding. He stepped forward, blocking Travis from reaching for the remote. "Sit down, Travis." Logan's voice cut through the room, low and commanding. "You're embarrassing yourself." Travis hesitated, caught between his guilt and the anger that surged through him. He reluctantly sat back down, his face a deep shade of red, avoiding the gaze of his manager, who was now texting under the table. Melissa, who had been stone-faced this whole time, finally spoke, her voice shaking. "I can explain," she said, her words barely audible. But it wasn't an apology. It wasn't the confession I had expected. It was a defense, a weak attempt to reclaim control of a situation that was spiraling out of her hands. Her boss stood up, his face hard. "I hope it's the truth this time, Melissa, because we've already opened a review into your behavior, and now, after seeing this, I think I know exactly what kind of person you've become." Her mother was the next to speak. The disappointment in her voice was palpable. "You told us he was dangerous, that he cheated, that he broke your heart. And now, look what we've found." Melissa turned to me, her voice shaking as she tried to salvage the situation. "Daniel, please." I didn't say a word. I simply stared at her, my eyes cold. "You lied to everyone," I said quietly. And you did it thinking I wouldn't have the strength to show them the truth. But all I had to do was press play. There was a deafening silence that followed. Her lipstick looked too bright under the dim lighting, and her hands were frozen in her lap, unsure of where to go from here. She had lost control. One by one, the guests started to leave. Some walked out without saying a word, their eyes filled with pity, others squeezing my shoulder in silence. It wasn't sympathy, not really, it was recognition. The truth had a way of doing that. It made you see things for what they truly were. Melissa didn't move until the last guest had left. When the door shut behind them, she stood slowly, her shoulders slumped. The weight of the situation seemed to hit her all at once. "You ruined me," she whispered, her voice brittle, fragile. I shook my head, my expression unwavering. "Number, you did that yourself," I said softly. "I just let everyone see what was already there." I paused, my eyes narrowing as I added, "You made one mistake, Melissa. One mistake that was a campaign. You cheated. You lied. You smeared me to people I loved. You lost everything, and it wasn't because of me." She blinked, stunned, and I could see that the realization was finally sinking in. I turned and walked upstairs, leaving her standing there. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't need to. I sat by the window in our bedroom, watching the rain streak down the glass, and I thought about all the little things she had taken from me. Peace, trust, laughter. But I had taken something far greater from her in return. The next week was even worse for them. Melissa was placed on indefinite leave from her job, her boss citing ethical concerns and damage to the company's reputation. Travis's company launched a misconduct investigation after the footage I had shared with them exposed more than just his infidelity. It revealed his side hustle. Apparently, some of his clients were connected to his company's network, and HR didn't take too kindly to that. He resigned quietly before they could press formal charges, but his reputation followed him everywhere he went. A month later, he applied to a firm in Dallas. I didn't have to do anything. The internet did the job for me. Screenshots from the dinner party circulated. The video, the slideshow, everything I had captured, the truth, spread far beyond anything I could have imagined. Travis's offer was rescinded almost immediately. Melissa, on the other hand, tried to make contact. She sent long, apologetic emails at first, trying to explain, to beg for forgiveness. Then she blamed me. She even threatened legal action. But my lawyer had already filed the final divorce papers. No alimony, no asset battle, no drawn-out court drama. Everything fell in my favor. She didn't have a leg to stand on. 3 weeks after the dinner party, the house fell quiet in a way I hadn't experienced in years. Not hollow, not empty, just calm. It felt like breathing again. It felt like finally taking a deep breath and not being afraid of the air around me. Logan stayed a little longer, helping me turn the guest room into a small home gym. Therapy, in a way, sawdust and sweat. We worked side by side in silence, occasionally laughing at something stupid or remembering better years. One day, while mounting a weight rack to the wall, Logan looked over at me and said, "You're not angry anymore." I paused. "Number, I'm not." He nodded once. "Good. Because that woman, she wasn't just cheating. She was erasing you." That stuck with me because it was true. Melissa hadn't just broken our vows. She had tried to rewrite who I was to everyone. She didn't just cheat with Travis. She made me the villain in her story, so she could play the victim in hers. And for a while, it almost worked. But I didn't let her get away with it. A few months later, I met someone new. Her name was Claire. She was gentle, kind, real, the kind of person who asked how your day was and meant it. We met at the hardware store, when she asked me if I knew anything about paint thinners. I told her I knew more about rebuilding walls. We laughed, and she didn't ask about Melissa. She didn't care about my past. She just listened when I talked. We went on hikes, we made breakfast together. We didn't need to post our life online. We just lived it. One night, Claire asked if I ever missed the life I had before. I thought about it for a moment, then answered honestly, no, because that wasn't a life. That was a performance. I had already learned what it meant to heal. And sometimes healing didn't come with a big, loud bang. It came with peace. And that's exactly what I had now.